Ooh, just talked about. Oh well, lost that thought there. Maybe that's good. I don't say it out loud. She basically grew up a sociopath. I'm gonna run to warm up. Jog, they call it. I call this running. I'm running from death cold. Running from the chill. Running from the chill. I just like it there so much. A good little discussion with myself. I allowed myself to get really stoned because I thought I'm going to be walking home in the cold. I might as well enjoy myself. I mean, why can't I enjoy myself? So this sociopathic female I met her, I was stoned, I was very emotional. Anyway, it didn't go as bad as it could have, but she prefaced it by telling me that when she was a teenager, she started dissecting language, which I appreciated when I first heard it. And kind of making it do more of what she thought it should do, and discarding parts of it that weren't as useful to her or something. But you know, when I told her that I'd done a lot of writing in my life, she didn't relate to that at all. So it became clear in talking to her that whatever she's been doing it without using words and expressing herself creatively. She's been an artist, so I guess a visual artist you could say, and clearly has read a lot of books and probably absorbed certain ways of thinking and talking while forming her sense of identity in the world, and now to this day. So it's interesting. Hi, it's beautiful out here. I think they looked at the camera in my hand and say, wow, that's a huge camera. I don't see a lot of men holding tablets. Fairly nice, rich, middle class women, I think. Nice smiles though. Trying to stay warm, probably just like me. You probably thought, nice day for you. You're in a warm, somewhat feminine looking hat. It's the hat nature gave me. Mother Nature likes me in it. Even if my real mother doesn't. But wait, Mother Nature is my real mother. And kind of also my father. Wait, hold a second here. What are you talking about? I'm cold. Come on, we were jogging before those women came along. Let's go. I've been down there. I was talking about dread earlier. Previous video, and it's like I've had it out here in the back of my heart. I can feel it a bit right now. Okay. Like the cold sinking in almost. It's cold. I wonder if even like the heart has a feminine side and a masculine side in some sense. Okay, hold it. Where do we go? We go that way. I can go this way. I'll go this way. Farther from the river. Okay, I think I know where to go. Let's try something a little different. And one of the things that dread can have a reason, but it's related to the past. It doesn't mean something is going to happen. It just means that for past or present reasons, there's clearly was or is a danger potential. Perhaps the shock of like I've been hurt by people where the potential for violence was increasing, so you're living in a pressure cooker, and then it released upon you. Now you've got a lifelong set of problems as to, human beings become pressurized all the time. If you're in any situation and you're feeling pressure on your heart for any reason, say you feel like I do, a little lost in the woods, a little too cold, a little too stoned, a little too emotional, maybe a little too sad and forgotten and lost. Okay, hold that thought for a second. Honesty, it's so refreshing. As I round this hill, I'm not lost, I'll be alright. But I was a little lost here one day because of how I'd come to know the environment, because I'd come to know it a certain way. Not that I'm blaming the place, it's the way that the path that I took led me to believe something that wasn't true. It was like the opposite of the truth. Imagine if you come to a trail and you think, oh, I have to go this way because this is where I came from. Well, as it turned out, where I'd come from wasn't the way home. You have to kind of compute that in your mind. So that's like something to analyze. You have something happen in these environments, like you could analyze that and go, wow, what does that say about you? Well, you're not ready to go home. But I learned something. I could make the wrong decision about what something means. A bad assumption can kill you, And I was using this place as a marker, so I was convinced when I came back here, I knew which way to go. Jesus, there's nothing worse than making mistakes when you think you're thinking at your best, in your own best interest, right? So I learned a little humility. And now whenever I talk to people, certain people, I'll be like, oh yeah, they haven't been here a lot. And I'll say, oh yeah. And I'll say, oh yeah, there's a pretty clear trail that runs blah, blah, blah. I said, I have gotten turned around in there because there's so many little trails going this way and that. It's good to keep the river as a guide, but I did, have some anxiety walking back there for the first time. And I'll tell people this, and they'll usually just feel sorry for me. But some of them might be duly cautioned, There's no better cautionary tale than a grown man getting lost in a local park, and telling people. They'll never forget that. And they'll never get lost. Isn't that beautiful? I offer myself as a sacrifice. They should put little boards up with my picture saying, this man who thinks he's really smart got lost here. He was running and crying like a little girl. Here's the CCTV footage. And it's like, I get an Oscar. It's like, you must have been acting. I'll be like, and this year's award for the most realistic victim of his own incompetence, Landon Seeley. Dun, dun, dun. Jennifer Lawrence will be in the front row with Katie Couric and Jennifer Lowe. Pez. It's like Sweet and Low. And then all various female stars. Now, not as aged as you think due to the wonders of plastic surgery and lying about their age to begin with. And often their sex, gender, and provenance and everything else. There's a whole bunch of Kathy Lee Gifford and Pamela Anderson and, the girl who played Janet from Three's Company and Lieutenant Houlihan, or is it Major Houlihan? So that's cool en masse, right? Major Houlihan. I love that they made this beautiful, strong woman a major. That she had major mental issues, but that they kind of cured her of those, I think, halfway through the series. And when Frank left, this crazy guy who brought out her craziness, she kind of reenacted it with him. It all went away. And then she becomes friends with Hawkeye, and they actually kind of keep each other sane, while carrying just a moderate amount of attraction that's, for the most part, kept at bay quite easily. But it becomes more like just an affectionate admiration for each other when they most need each other. And if you watch MASH, I think that's one of the most poignant relationships that develops. The greatest creative arc and developmental arc in two people is Hawkeye and Major Houlihan. I think they go through the most changes throughout the entire series. And I criticize TV a lot, but I would say that is a positive component of this basically state propaganda, right? And witchcraft. But I can see positive things. I mean, I've watched it at times. I mean, if it came on the TV, even if I was in some strange, spooky house, surrounded by, sleeping meth addicts, and they'd be like, dun, 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 and I'd be like, everything's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be okay. And my gag wouldn't seem so tight and the anal plug so humiliating. Dun, 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 dun. It's awful, don't you think? I've been in people's houses growing up because I never socialized a lot. Maybe I went to some guy's house I worked with at KFC, or the TV's on somewhere and you're freaked out by what they leave on the TV, say around their children, or just that they leave it in the background while they live their lives. So there's women with their children living in this house, for instance, where this huge screen TV is some reality TV show with women's fake breasts jiggling this way and that, you know what I mean? Big lips, makeup, and all kinds of creepy things going on in the background, and they just leave it on. And you just realize how utterly sexual and in your face it is, that if you were in a psychiatric ward or a prison, this might make sense because it went with people's medication or something. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm talking about how I feel. This is in my emotional body, which as a man, like, I've had to really keep secret most of my life because I feel these things. It's like, you could say, well, you're being judgmental and all these little, it's like, okay, fuck all that. I'm feeling how creepy this feels. And what if I tell you that both the women I was in that house with sexually assaulted me or committed some violent crime against another sentient creature while professing what sounded to me like a very sincere and very grateful relationship with some ultimate love? Okay, what if I told you that both those girls were left stranded by their mother and father under violent circumstances by the time they were 12 to 15 years old? Okay, what if I told you, wow, that looked like a teepee. Holy shit, that log looked like a teepee. Oh, sacred land. Whew. This is where they would have a powwow I'm talking more like a 12-year-old right now than a racist white male. You gotta, let children discover Indian culture by themselves and be like, Dad, is this where they would have a powwow? It's like, well, son, I don't really know what a powwow is, but look at the color turquoise of this door, which reminds me of native stones like turquoise, native colors, right? I don't know enough, but I know that I've seen native people wear turquoise and wear it quite well. Like you could see how it would be a jewel among their people. Why were semi-precious stones? Again, I'm a white man, but why would semi-precious stones, what we call semi-precious stones, be some of the most highly prized things that were traded up and down this coast? Because on the red man and woman, it is though a jewel. Try to comprehend that. Now, the same color of this car door is the color of these girders down there. I call them girders. I don't know what they really are. Steel girders. And like some alpha male comes up like, hey man, puts his arm. That's not bad, young man. You almost said the right thing. It's just you didn't have enough confidence because your balls haven't fully developed. Thanks, sir. Look at this. It looks like a teepee. That's the thing that men don't like. I've been around men, even bisexual men, native men, and I'll make jokes about myself, and they're like, dude, like, you shouldn't talk about yourself that way, and they're right in a way. Like, I appreciate that. That's a valid input if a man puts himself down. But I've always kind of relied on making jokes about myself because I think it keeps you humble, You can just laugh about yourself. Like, isn't that like something you'd want to hold on to? Like, what am I, just some creepy middle-aged virgin who lives with his mother and talks on his non-interesting YouTube channel? Like, fuck, I mean, like an 8-year-old could say that. Children are smart. But, you wouldn't want to hold me to that. I see the spirit of a wolf in a fallen leaf. Do not the people of the wolf dwell in such a place? And can I not call them a people? Have I not known the native man when I have thought about the meaning of the wolf or the bald eagle? I say that I have. I say that I have a heart and blood in my veins. Please don't condemn me to being a white man. I don't want to be beset with that the rest of my life. Please don't force me to be white all of my life. Now, you might say that is a suitable prison, suitable condemnation for someone with white skin, but please, I beg of you, do not make me be white the rest of my life. Please don't. It is a suitable punishment.
to just let us wander and blither on in our way. But I do not do any disrespect to the red man when I say that I walked up here and that log looked like a teepee. And the color of that door is a color that could only truly be worn by the red man. And you would not risk trying to emulate that and start covering yourself with turquoise clothing and rings. And I've seen white men do that. They've got the expensive native art and they got the huge turquoise jewelry on them. They've really found a way into that spirit in a way. But I don't quite believe them somehow. Because here's the thing, it's where I've probably a genuine interest in native culture is being mixed with the white sort of identity determining compulsions to do with white cults and white black magic and Christianity. I'm seeing a couple eagles flying around, so it's just beautiful. Really something. Hey ho, hey ho, hey hey, hey yo. Do 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 do. Hey yo, hey yo. Yeah, there's no white people around. I can dance. Hey, the eagles make me want to dance. Hey yo, hey yo. Hey yo, hey hey. Hey. The sky beings looked down at me when I did that. That's lovely. Thank you. Let's keep walking. Hey ho, hey hey yo. We're still running from the cold. Thank you. I'll come back and enjoy this place. All you have to do is show a little respect. Hey ho, hey. Just a little respect. I teach my children. Just that little respect. Just a little respect for this place, and then go and enjoy and learn. You bring that spirit of respect with you. Respect is not worrying about someone's clobbering you over the head with a club because you're acting a little too white today. Just be aware of your whiteness. I would teach my children, because even its most oppressive feeling upon your heart that you might be deprived of some wonderful nourishment which this earth has had to offer the greatest of people, who are known as the red man, who have preserved the ways of the medicine wheel where we have not, and we must bear that shame. But that shame, though many shame is wrong, is a poison to our heart. And taste of that bitterness, taste of it every day of your life, and know that that is 1,000th of 1,000th of what we did to the red man. And they still, the generosity of this earth deprives us of nothing, but that we deprive it of ourselves. Do you not know that you cannot hide your heart from Mother Nature? And the greatest people of this earth knew that. They would have never all had cause to doubt it, but that the white man came along and broke everything, and broke the hoop, and broke the medicine ways, and broke the dancing, right? And plagued this wonderful land called Turtle Island with many murderous and foul things, which are not even nearly comprehended by all your Holocaust movies. You know? And Jewish people know what I mean. I mean that respectfully. I mean, I'm a bit Jewish. They're great people. Jews are great people. Not the Jews on television. Not the lawyers on television, and not anybody on television. Who, unfortunately, I think when it comes to being white and American, television is an accurate portrayal of these people. But not when you're Jewish or black or anything else, to be fair, right? I think white people are the most accurately portrayed on television. Everyone else isn't. So I don't watch things with Jews on television because I have more respect for Jews than that. I know it sounds slightly anti-Semitic, but I just got tired of listening to Jews on YouTube because these people, they're smart as anything, but I get a little sick of them. And then I think I'm going to go off Jews if I keep listening to them. Because I don't think these are really what Jews are like. I don't think there's Sam Harris or, Ben Shapiro. I'm sorry, I don't.
or any of these people. But I don't want to dislike what is Jewish at all, because I don't think there's anything really wrong with that. But I think if you know anything, you need to, don't deprive anything, not the best of people, from some contour to their existence. No one ever's had an identity that hasn't been mixed up in some shady business, right? If only by association after association, just because we all live in the world, we're all partly psychopaths. You know what I mean? We could all judge each other pretty good, and none of us would be worthy of the pearly gates. We've all got a lot of stink in us, right? But I'd rather talk about it as an abstract concept than inflict it on someone and say, you are such and such a sick person, right? But it has to be acknowledged that people do bear this sickness. Come back around. I think I'm oriented quite well, which I like. That's nice when you're getting stoned, and that's what I've worked for, really, so I can know these lands enough that I can do this. Maybe she's looking at my socks, actually. We'll never find out. I think women, to put another side to this I hate women conversation, I hope that women would just appreciate that I am generally always more and more inclined to be quite passive socially to females. I mean, I'm basically at your mercy, for the most part. I'm really not going to get too aggressive with any female if I can help it. Really, I give women the same consideration I give to somewhat homosexual, drunk, belligerent males in a bar. Literally the same level of respect. It's like, I really don't want to get too mixed up with you. You could probably get away with a lot of awful things, and I'll just want to walk away. You know what I mean? So you have me at a disadvantage. To the same as a slightly volatile, slightly homosexual, drunk redneck in a local bar. It's like, in any fight, I'm not going to win. So, I only speak the language of logic and my own emotional being. And so we all get to be a bit irrational, I suppose, in that sense. And let's just take a break with all this mental illness shit. But unfortunately, people have trouble balancing their right to be as emotionally intelligent, and as rational as they need to be, with what or what doesn't constitute inflicting it on others. That a lot of us live very quiet lives because we don't want to inflict ourselves on others. We've learned that to be ourselves is almost the same as inflicting ourselves on people. I wish I could have like a whole list of films showing the physiological reactions and sounds of people who have in my life been near me when I was processing emotional shock, right? Or crying, or talking about how emotional I feel, or talking, even just referring to really difficult things in my life, and how nobody ever really listens to me. And bodily reactions are quite stiff, or just completely ambivalent to what's going on. Almost like they're getting off on it. And I don't know, I've never presumed to know how someone should respond to someone like that, but it seems, as much as it's a very true part of me, it seems to be a darkly enlightening thing about other people in my presence when I'm going through those types of feelings. To think that there's anyone qualified to do that for money is just a bizarre concept to me. I've never thought that there was such a thing. I guess you could say human shock attracts a lot of strange people. In what people who would talk to me and say, in any sense that they've stood by people in shock, or they know how to help people with shock, or something that they may not even know is shock, but don't think of it that way. This sociopathic woman, I don't know what to call her, I won't use her name, I was allowing my emotional body, she seemed acceptable or amenable to allowing me to be emotional. In fact, she went so far as to tell me that people restrict their emotions too much. Okay. But her comfort was also somewhat ambivalent to my emotions. And when I mentioned that, after pointing to a part of my body and just describing it and being respectful of listening to how that might have felt to her and wanting to restrain myself and be sensitive to whether or not she wants to be in the presence of someone experiencing emotional shock. But when I said the word shock, I could see that for all her knowledge, she'd never thought of it that way. And if you've never studied shock, don't call yourself a therapist. So end of, I guess, speech. I learned these things. There's the sound, the horn of Odin. Odin's really horny today. Okay, keep going. See, warmth is now flowing through my veins. So I've only really got cold once, so that's a good day. It's a good walk. That's why I chose this route. But also, like I said, this route is good and different, but it's also got its own unique challenges. One of them is it's blistering cold along a major stretch of river. So I'm visiting the river today and taking pictures, and saw the bald eagle, the merganser today, the bear yesterday, all centered around building a medicine wheel. On the day talking about women and what they do to men, where what I considered the male part of the wheel had been tampered with, where none of the other wheel had. So it's there for beauty or enjoyment, but it wasn't destroyed, but it was meddled with in one specific way of its specific ornamentation. Yeah, fascinating. Eh? The male part was removed and placed several feet away in the sand. It wasn't replaced. So talking about male sacrifice, like I just did art therapy for the entire local population, right? And exactly what that female sociopath, she hadn't accounted for the male dignity and integrity of my emotional and physical intelligence while talking to me, meaning also most of my voice. So her entire expertise was laser focused and constraining what amounted to 1% of the vocal power and vocal range of my ability to tell other people how I feel and what it means to me. So it was a form of rape, actually. But I don't want to get too much into that. Stand still once. Just trying to stay. Yeah. And so I came and got involved with the energy of that place through a super acutely connected sociopathic white female who seemed well acquainted with the place and had strong designs upon it, and represented a very eccentric or aberrant energy compared to the energy of almost everyone else around that day. She was very up and excited. Everyone else was kind of low and slow, which are mostly males. So I was kind of balanced out while I was there with these gentle male energies around me, which she basically ignored. If I was a male talking to a female surrounded by, say, nice alpha females and soliciting me and being told and shown and politely acquainted with what I called emotional shock in my body, because this person was basically looking for that and claimed to have expertise, high expertise, preeminent in related areas, but was insensible of my time, my own words, 99% of my physical body language, and was showing a very difficult facial and tonal and physical body language at key moments in our conversation that illuminated a lot to me. So she doesn't realize that she's talking to a human lie detector. But I'm not looking for a liar per se. I'm just trying to pad my future books with exceptional anecdotes about how women could be seen as liars while just doing the best they can as someone who was, as a teenager, she said, changing the way she used words, which sounds scary. It didn't sound scary when she was telling me. That's the interesting thing. It went to a conversation in context about what I said about, I was qualifying some things I had said in exchange with her because I understood that the English language could be a bit ambiguous, and you have a responsibility to kind of watch the energy that comes through your words as much as you watch your words, out of courtesy. And it just so happened this woman practiced no real such courtesy towards me, but was recollected to me how when she was young, indeed, she had seen that she didn't like some of the beliefs or unconscious beliefs that came with the English language and was learning to parse them out for herself. But I suppose is what I'm saying, to parse out the right things in respect to hers. I think a little more was going on, because when I ventured to make some queries of my own, very subtly, it looked like she hadn't done a lot of writing, probably except academic writing when she was in school, but read a lot and was very deeply acquainted and practiced the beliefs of many probably very credible authors of books, and also contemporaneous with various, I guess what she calls native healers in the area, and basically upper class healers who charge a lot of money. And it's amazing how she was identifying herself among such people while telling me, about how she decided not to use any of those services because ostensibly, she didn't need them. But was glad to run into someone, I guess, who was willing to offer very... Ooh. Let's see if they can... Oh. Hi there.
Hi.
That's true. Two women, they're nice. So lots of, very natural sense things about her as a person. I mean, why wouldn't she give information about her social and economic class? So, to be fair, right, we all have that. You can't, fault people for, being part of what they're around and what they live with. You could say that I'm a snob because I'm not as wealthy, and that's just something that strikes me as something more, something to be criticized because, maybe I feel inferior to it. I'm just not, I don't speak the language, fair enough, too bad for you, kind of thing, right? No, that's not their fault. And you could say that. I'd like to distinguish myself in my capacity to reason for myself and others, which I think, when it is not used to extend or defend violence, actually the very process of peace. In other words, to not put words in other people's mouths, but just to try to anticipate what sounds and grumbles they could make about the way you're thinking about something. People will accuse you of not thinking the way you could, rather than giving you a chance to think the way you could, sometimes. But anyway, I still think they're cunts. But I can rationally see your point of view. It's more how it feels when you analyze things, people, all the time. Because in a sense, this information, though you might say neutral in itself and quite honestly testifying to no reason to believe but the estimable people with whom she had rubbed her mind throughout her life, among her people, you might say. And it is, in a sense, like a socioeconomic class, kind of like your tribe's colors. It doesn't have to be better, but it is a very, people are quite proud of and have enjoyed, maybe you might say, some very clear and consistent comforts in the achievements which their people have reached in economic wealth, for instance, and another wealth. If it was just money, it wouldn't mean anything. It's like, these aren't people who just have expensive things. They're people with an enriched sense of value that is very noticeable in how they've gathered, saved, and earned their money, and how they use it to this day. Right? That would be a fair estimation of, like, up the upper middle class, white people, right? And they would say, like, okay, that's fair. So what's your problem? They'd all talk like George W. Bush at this point. Hello there. Hello, poor people. You just gotta work harder. I'm passing a bill to make you work harder.
it's all for you. I guess I come from Cockney people, and even though my family are not critical of upper class people, because, I mean, they basically made it into the upper class by working and all that kind of stuff, real estate. They learned to do those things. My Uncle Bob, my Uncle Vic are very smart. They're passed now, and very smart men, which show me, and I appreciate, there's people who are laying pipe beside my building. I mean, they're making from everything that was nothing into everything that will ever be there and needs to be a building complex, and from nothing to everything that it needs to be, and leaving a lot of the trees alone that are around, so that's been nice. And I think they've slowly been some attrition. I think they probably decided to do something slowly, if you know what I mean. But I just sat there and I thought, these men, I know a young man who's grown up in the area, become men doing these jobs. Their father teaches them, because he's done this work, or type of work, period. And these are physically fit. They've coached or become excelled at sports and local hockey, and been physical and brave and hardworking, and learned how to be a man in very clear and concise ways. And they're working, and they're doing hard jobs, and they're enjoying it, and they're proud, as they should, of what they do, right? And I stood there in the car park beside my mother's car, a very, very different man, looking out through the bars somewhat, and looking out and just trying to really admire it, while being sensible of the fact that I could not emulate this behavior. So it's something, if not better than what I can do, very distinguished in how you would discriminate from what this young man is doing and what I do and what I learned to do as a young man. It's not as hard work as that. I didn't learn to live and work among men who could do such things. I didn't manage to socialize with the parts of my family that all do such things. So you feel that and know that without being angry at yourself or others. And then it's kind of like wealth inequality. But you're also concocting it in your own mind. You're just suffering from a neurosis of some kind. And if you give yourself that, then also find its provenance in, yes, industrial stresses. That a lot of things that make people different for no bad reasons feel stressful to various people, because there's a stress on everything that we do. And even to our development of our sense of identity and autonomy and self-respect, these are body image and so forth, are stressed, obviously. But then to allow yourself the neurosis of making it a little worse for yourself, or simply ruminating on various distinctions and how they feel, is not a bad thing. It's just, and then I saw the geese flying overhead, and my heart just soared. I thought, now my heart has been drawn from something a little bit difficult for me, and then to something I really enjoy, geese flying over. And that I thought to myself immediately, it's nice to have men like me who appreciate the beauty of it all, and more. People, whom the geese fly around. When he's standing in a circle made in his name on the local beach where he lives. Well, I count myself among the geese and the cow people and the elephants in Africa and the eagles and the local bear, because I know now that they see me as one of them. The wolves see me as a wolf. The cougars see me as a cougar. They see me as someone who belongs in the medicine wheel, belongs at the center of the medicine wheel, and belongs to the medicine of the north, and belongs to the medicine of the east, and the south, and the west, and all that is above and all that is below. The man who's walked his good medicine walk and found the center from time to time when he needed to, and he steadied himself there, where the bear looked over him and smelled his necessities. And he was afraid of his allies, and his allies protected him. They were better than allies. They were like his own flesh and blood, protected as much as his own flesh and blood should have protected him from the beginning. And so it was calling forth a tradition of the true biology of man,
Not the genetics, not the space crap, just the true biology of protection. Ultimately, humans have had to protect themselves, and they have to find the tradition that has protected them. Like this earth has protected herself, like all that is man has protected itself, and all that is woman has protected itself, right? And if you feel that homosexuality is so normal, then I guess you would imagine that homosexuality has protected itself, and what it is good for and what it is sacred for, and how it has its own sacred view of reality. I would quibble with that, but that's my honest point of view. I think in reality there is the sanctity of man, the sanctity of woman, the sanctity of all spirits, and certainly the sanctity of anyone, including all children, quite irrespective of whether they have a pee-pee or a yoo-hoo, as much as possible. I mean, in healthy conditions, that's not going to make a difference in whether or not, what they choose to feel like as they get older, or what they are. But, all those things are affected if your children are being abused or living in too much oppression and stress, if only because it's just too much for them. And you shouldn't make them feel different and weird because of that. We should be better than that. I don't like all the names of parental incompetence, like ADHD and autism and schizophrenia and Asperger's. Jesus, man. You're giving your children fucking emotional brain death, and you're conjuring up little fucking pills and words, making YouTube videos about how you bathe your sexually abused 8-year-old because he's terrified of water in his own fucking bathroom. Like, tell me that's just a mental disorder. Fuck you. It's like people just don't know how scary they are. I was a child, for many years. I still am in many ways. It's like people don't know how aggressive they are. White people don't know how violent they are. They don't know how aggressive they are around their children. Now, if you're a redneck, like that same young man who's learned to lay pipe, I couldn't have had his father for a father. I wouldn't have enjoyed that. He had to perform. A lot was demanded of him, and he was able to meet those demands. And that's good, That's something for both of them to be proud of. His mother is crazy. She's a sexual predator, right? I studied her for a while. And the father essentially saved him from her. So I will always respect that. He's an exceptional young man, as far as I can hear. And dancing. I think dancing is presented to children in many generations now as a sex magic, I would call it, if I could put a phrase. If I would, as an amateur cultural anthropologist, I would call dancing, as it's been presented to children for several generations through the world wars, the dancing fads, and just dancing in any shape or form, as popularly done and seen and part of media in any way, has always been sex magic, along with the music, for sure, absolutely. I was dancing today, just dancing in sacred communion with the two eagles that came out and said hello to me. I just felt like dancing there. It's like after I'd spoken a bit and paid my respects, whatnot, to what I imagined that place to be, the sanctity of it. Yeah. So I've met, just to change the subject for a second, I'm not quite sure where I was going there. As a child and as an adult who's been a child, and you remember a lot as a child when you're around situations that are in any way aberrant, because pain, agony, and infidelity in the environment can last longer in the human mind. And there's a very simple reason for that, because it should. And it only will in certain people, though, who can have the mental power to recollect such things and such pain and to read the book of agony right? And people go, oh, that's negative, don't read from the Book of Agony, right? And those people don't want to learn anything new. They're happy with the way things are, and they will never learn anything as far as you're concerned. But thankfully, they can still become engineers and doctors and learn lots of things, languages. They just won't learn what you learn.
Another one's coming down, eh?
Oh, really? Neat.
Oh.
Yeah, I've seen a few, yeah. Not here, but around.
Yeah. Yes, they stand up to nature forever.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
It's poetic and true. Yeah, take care. Poetic and true. The tree is falling down and she said, I guess they can't stand up to nature. It's like, yeah. Poetic. I said, that's poetic and true. Let's keep walking. Now that woman is my age or older and old enough to be a bit cougarish, but that's the nice way to talk to me. Her face, her smile. She's aware that I'm male and all that kind of stuff, as women are. Women, you know what the strange thing is, actually the irony about having a lot of cougars, is that I'm not a very good looking man, but women, actually I'll say this about women, even though they're cougars, is that women are clearly very forgiving or not that discriminating about the looks of men that they're attracted to. It's an amazing thing. It really is. I mean, they're very forgiving. I see women or young women that like me and they have beautiful skin, beautiful bodies. Why would they ever be attracted to me in a million years? And I've been standing in line with men who are much better looking, younger and much better skin, and who clearly have jobs, have good looking fathers, one who showed up with his father, and it's just like, clearly great, wonderful, joyous people, but somehow they fixate on me, a middle-aged virgin who lives with his mother, and it's like, that's where like the best of me becomes almost like a sexual predator. Not that I'm a sexual predator, but it doesn't look good on me. It doesn't look good as a person. I have to limit. The irony is, of course, is that, well, not of course, but the irony for me, since I've been with me since I was a child, is that I'm actually very passive and shy around all women and afraid of them. And I just try to be very polite. And if I feel like I can engage in any kind of discourse with them, I will. If I pick basically anything I can say, I will, because I don't want to be taciturn, and that's it. I just try to get through it. It's like a tiny little dental appointment, So I never feel comfortable around women. So I would never really do anything, I can't do anything, but I've noticed that I got to be careful not to do anything that could be seen as flirtatious, because sometimes I'm a little whimsical, right? At the end of my day, I went to this health food store one day, and I think I said something about the weather, but like what that woman said, it was just a little poetic, and the young lady was just lit up. And it was a wonderful feature of her young mind that it was lit up by the very honest, poetic way that I talked about, the seasons always kind of being something that I could enjoy, though sacred. And it speaks well of her, but she became very attracted to me in, very modest Christian ways. But it was clear, like, there was a very, very warm fire burning inside of her. And beautiful as it is from my perspective as a 50-year-old, beautiful. I'm sure some of the nicest memories of her young life are going to be seeing me walk through those doors. And that's nice, And I've had that happen between me and women, and just because I walk by some place that they work, and again, very forgiving. So on the one hand, I guess part of the reason I enjoy this energy is because I think some of these women have good judgment. I know that sounds awful, but there's sometimes they say I look like an actor or something, but I don't really. But again, they're very forgiving and they seem very enamored. It is true that they are attracted to me in some way, but it's not really because I'm that good looking. I like to think they're just picking up on my aura, or that I really am as nice a person as I think I am, and nice young people with open hearts notice it, and nobody else does. It's a kind of perfect little prison. So you'd be like, geez, one day you're going to fuck one of these girls. And it's like, nope, I'm old enough. I lived in one guy's house, an abusive fire chief, and he wanted me to use the bathroom his two teenage daughters used when they were there on the weekend when he had custody. And I left in a month. I paid 1 month's rent, and I left. And they wanted to watch My Little Ponies with me all day. And and by the way, My Little Pony is an interesting show. I was able to enjoy watching it with them because they're children and they're into it. You know what I mean? It helps you to get into it. But I was also aware that it was black magic, and it was very biblical in nature. So the enemies fictionalized in the My Little Pony had a lot of intelligence that was properly being distributed by the entire My Little Pony enterprise. So, and the Bible uses such language too, like, the enemy has said in his heart, I will subdue you and cut all your trees down and change the standard of signs. Well, that's what the people who owned the world did. Okay, so, it's right there, man. I mean, that's why it helps to read the Bible while you're wiping your ass with it. You tend to sink in more. I think I take it as suppository. I really do. It just sinks right in, man. Or maybe just read the Bible. Don't use it as toilet paper, but read it while you're on the bathroom, because it seems to make a lot more sense. You don't have to wipe your ass with it. In fact, it might clog your pipes if you do. In so many ways. So many ways. Tomorrow, I think my sphincter has kissed you sometime and tasted something like honey on its lips. I gotta find some way to piss. Okay. I'm cold, it's pissing that I go. I'm cold, I'm cold, I'm really very cold. I've got to piss, that's how it is. I'm cold. When you go down some stretch of river, you always imagine that you can do it. You don't imagine that you can't do it, even though you might indeed have some trouble doing it. It's kind of like sex. I found my way back to where I was earlier, intuitively. So that's a good sign. And the river might be a bit higher than it was, but it's not looking too bad. I heard a clunk. Okay. A pleasant orchestra, pleasant refrain. Oh, we're doing quite well. Okay. It's brightened up a little bit. Well, a few bugs in the air. It's good to see. Bugs are actually, I find more often than not, I welcome bugs. People often just like immediately, instinctively like hate little flying creatures, but I love anything that's beautiful, and bugs are beautiful, and they're part of my people. People say my relations, but I just think they're nice people. They don't hurt me, really. I haven't had a bee sting in a long time. But even if I did, which I have, I don't hold it against them. You know, I always find that human venom is so bad that insect venom basically helps you deal with human venom. You know, because human venom is really the thing we have to worry about the most, having to deal with. It's the human venom that really hurts the most. And for sure, you know, and I want to, kind of the God that we learn from as amateur medical people to maybe start just buying health products for themselves instead of getting prescriptions from their doctor, is that learning to respect the God of knowledge of humans is the ability for humans to hurt you and to be venomous and to change personality or to twist reality or to seem to have needed to twist it from your perspective, and you're not sure if you've got a problem or they've got a problem, but you know it's a problem, and not knowing whose problem it really is can make it really hard to deal with, because you won't believe how people could just randomly come up to you and you might leave thinking like, do I have a problem? You know, and people who do sales of health products can make you feel you have a problem, and some of these psychopaths can make you feel, well, never really saying it, you know, like saying, oh, she said, wait, I don't want to put too many words to it, that they're finding a way in because they're reading, in a sense, your pain in the way that they've learned to read people's pain while growing up and dissociating from their pain and learning how to see it as other people's pain, right? And maybe thinking that they become spiritual and learned why people are in pain. They've become more compassionate and they've met really popular, wealthy, healing people. But in the healing realm, like, there's a lot of fakery, right? But this person is tuning into that, but they're not really being respectful. So there's just interesting ways that people become predators without knowing it. And you have to extricate yourself from that. Like, anyone who makes you feel uncomfortable, no matter how mistakenly polite you've been, or you haven't been assertive enough, or maybe you just weren't feeling strong that day or something, it's not your fault. It's just the way they roll. And some of them, yes, they'll give you psychological problems, right? Because they think they can help you with that because they're cult, essentially, of various things, which is mixed with their gender quite often, and their gender and their sex identity very much, because your work is connected to your sex. That's one. So when someone does something that persuasive for work at all, I think that's going to be related to their sex life. And I doubt they even have a sex life, really, to speak of. But to be a salesman, I think the best salesmen are probably salesmen who have the least amount of sex. No doubt about it. In terms of how persuasive they seem to need to be and how convinced they are, and those around them, that this mode of persuasion is good for people. And when you get into the psychological, spiritual realm, more's the crime, and yet more's the delusion. And so the recipients of these people's love deserve a fucking Nobel Peace Prize. And they're all over the world, right? People have been abused by various cults. You deserve a Nobel Peace Prize because, if not being in like a war-torn country, you have nonetheless, considering your probably childhood as well, really faced some of the greatest evils on earth. in their most sort of neutered or seemingly innocuous form. They're like innocuous cancer. It's like, Jesus, you don't die right away, but you just live with terrible, tremens for like the rest of your fucking life. They are, in short, predatory to the very people who are the most sensitive or vulnerable in society. So if that's me, it could also be a child. Right? If this person is as psychic as they think they are and have any sense of self-preservation, they don't want to get to know me, right? Because I'm a guard dog when it comes to children, and I don't want to know whether this person has children. I doubt it. That's another thing about female sexual predators. The best ones don't have children, but I've met a lot who do, right? And you just wonder. One, though, had a child because they were adopted. I know because she told me, which is a strange thing to say about your adult daughter, that she was adopted. It's like you just want to dissociate yourself from them, I think in a way she almost wanted to rationalize as a sociopath why she didn't seem probably though someone who had a daughter. She was independent, a free spirit. She had done her time, She wasn't her daughter anymore. She was a person all by herself who didn't need a mother. And she had no trouble telling you that. Plus the fact that one adopted a child makes you look super and amazing and compassionate. While to me, telling me personal information about someone who's not there, much less someone that has probably trusted you like a mother, is a sign of a sexual predator. And indeed, that's exactly what she was. So, when people do my work for me by fucking sexually assaulting me, my work really is easy. Sociopathic women do my work for me. They tell me everything that's in my books. They tell me I don't need to rely on spirits. I just talk to women. If you quote women your whole life, you can write a book on some of the greatest mental illness in this world. At least as it comes through women. And it does. Through the womb, everything else. Sexual abuse doesn't go away. It just keeps talking. Just like me. I'm not going to stay down there too long. It's too cold. I'll go down here for a while. So if that woman is as sensitive as I think she is, she would have walked away with some qualms of her own about dealing with me. But that part of me, that vulnerable 5-year-old, is is quite smart. I didn't think I was. You don't know how much protection you need when you're 5 or 6 or 7. And when I tried to tell this female, self-proclaimed white therapist that I had immunological interests in all of the circumstances that I was completely accepted quite respectably throughout my childhood, including being placed in a classroom full of all girls by female teachers. And she immediately said, well, it really depends on what lens you're using. And I'm like, well, you're right, I used a totally different lens back there. It was the lens of total acceptance, compared to which any level of discrimination would be valuable, if not invaluable to me. And she didn't understand that, because it doesn't speak, it's not in any of her books. So really she helped me out. I got to see what all these so-called fucking experts clearly have not bothered talking about. It's like, and she actually tries to curse me while giving me, right? She says, one day you're going to have something that the world needs to hear. It's like, what a curse. We all have something the world needs to hear. Are you kidding me? Jesus. In this world of mass communication, I've given up mass communicating. Jesus Christ. How many weird people think, I'm going to talk to the world and I will tell them the truth. How do you talk to 1 billion people? So I like to do it on my YouTube channel. They all get deleted by YouTube, but let's try it again. Hello, 1 billion people in the future. But To say the future, I'm kind of futurizing you, which is like racism. I'm making us separate, where we are actually close together in the eternal moment. I don't really believe that, but if that makes you feel good, let's go with it. Nonetheless, perhaps if my voice is reaching you, my spirit cannot be far away. And so, your spirit and my spirit can simply have a quiet little communion in the corner while you all play with yourselves. Now, if you prefer to hear some of that discussion between your great spirit and my great spirit, I'll open the golden intercom, which does not exist in time, but whose tendrils breathe through every moment of beauty that you or your people had ever or will ever enjoy. Prepare yourselves. This is the Captain Neo you have never seen before. Hello. Hello. Where are we? We're in a special place in Landon's mind, where my great spirit and the spirit of all the people of the world can speak quietly. Oh, what a nice place this is. Yes. Oh, isn't it? All the walls are white, and the ceiling is white, and the roof is white, with brown gutters. Yes. It's the same color as the leaves that fall in them, and nobody ever has to clean them. Oh, how lovely. Don't worry. It's created immense waterfalls in the eastern, southern, northern, and western walls of the building. And quite frankly, I think the roof is about to fall in. But I don't think it'll rain for a while. Satan's coming by, though, to examine the predicament and probably sit around and smoke humongous heaps of weed while contemplating his navel. Sounds wonderful. Whoa. Now, I've never gotten to speak to 1 billion people. What's your real name? Annabelle. Annabelle. The spirit of 1 billion people, indeed. How are your people doing? Well, they're up and down. Religion's taken a huge bite out of them, of course. It's basically had to remove my uterus. Oh, that's terrible. I should have been paying more attention. I was too busy watching Satan play with himself. It takes me away and helps me deal with the shock of the existence of the Christian Bible. I see. I don't mean to be rude, Great Spirit, but are you a crackhead? Oh, okay. Amusing myself. Ooh. Yeah. Ooh. It's nice to enjoy myself out here. Stay warm. Keep walking. Oh. Oh, I can take my hat off for a bit. Oh, goodness me. Oh. Yeah, so this somewhat cursed blessing is just, again, another strange thing. Like, why would you say that? Oh, you're going to talk to the world one day. You're going to have something the world needs to hear. It's like, let me get this straight. One day, in the future, I'm going to have something to say that the entire world needs to hear. Well, that's not very specific. I mean, it could be, I'm hungry, you know? And by the way, how would the world hear me? Is there going to be some technology where you could talk to the entire world? That's a pretty weighty proclamation. Yeah, I just didn't enjoy anything this person had. You know? You could take something nice, and I've met sociopaths like this, including white male gay Christians. And their art, such as they put it, is like, portrays a mind that has become like sanitized in some way. Like part of it's turned off. And it's almost better that it is. It's like it has some kind of lesion in it. And it makes them better people. You know, you wouldn't want to try to change it. And in deference to which, I think when I was a child, a channel from my left foot through my body that goes through the heart and out of the head, almost like a very deep nervous, part of the deep nervous system of the body, basically went numb. And I think part of it was because people around the earth have these lesions in their mind, so that they're positive. Everyone's a hypocrite. Everything people love and work for and makes them feel happy makes them seem like they've lost their minds. I don't know. It's just very odd. And at the risk of never being happy at all, my body just couldn't accept it. I think most people's minds have to shut something off. It just happened to be that for me, it had a physical component. And it probably runs through my brain as well, right? It's basically like a brain trauma running through the nervous system. I mean, I speak as a layman about the brain and the nervous system, even though they're not technically the same thing. But to me, everything's connected, So to go from my foot to the top of the head is to go from clearly the level of parasympathetic and sympathetic nerves into the brain, right? That's just the way the body works. And I know that this numbness, because it's not completely turned off, I've had energy travel through it. Once when I was on acid, and once when this sexual predator was kissing my left toe and touching it. And so sometimes they have these abilities, right? Their energy is very cranked up in a way, right? And it always wants to get in you. So it basically, her aggressive energy pushed this energy through my body and actually opened up that channel briefly. And it felt like this little black blob traveling the energy. It was probably like just energy trying to get through, moving up my leg, through my heart. I took a quick intake of breath and it moved up into my brain and out of the top of my head. It was amazing. And she didn't really think much of it, but it was actually an important thing that happened. It told me that the condition itself was temporary, in the sense that it wasn't a fixed condition. My father had been pigeon-toed and stuttered when he was a little boy. He was later prone to intestinal pains from violent or angry females, just like me. So essentially, I believe that this nerve slowed down its functioning while I was inside my mother's womb to protect me. My feet were turned in a lot. I was pigeon-toed for a lot of my early life, at least I was told from time to time. And it shows an energy field trying to protect itself when people are pigeon-toed. The same thing when their feet are turning out. Similar thing. My two baby teeth in my lower jaw at the front didn't grow, so I never got big teeth. I have a fairy pinch, what's called a fairy pinch, in one of my ears, which is an excess amount of cartilage on the outer rim of the ear. All right. Whew. Tired. It's good. I'll have to stop somewhere and eat and drink a little. Break. It's plenty cold though. And so the criticisms begin with women. It's amazing how quickly women can criticize men when you meet them. So I've met men who absolutely detest me the moment they even get a whiff of me. If I even just come into a store, they're working, it's like whoop. In fact, 2 times actually with 2 male and female employees, one male, one female, on 2 different occasions, with similar physical build and body type, in stature, even with respect to each other, had exactly the same response to me entering 2 different stores 10 years apart. But exactly the same response. Isn't that amazing? Physiologically, energetically, verbally, in every way. It's amazing how people of similar body types behave similar to me among the white population. It's incredible. So you see the idea that people are conditioned inside their mother's wombs, in the building of their bodies, to be psychopaths. You understand? They really are. Which is why you can, once you meet a few psychopaths, say females, you get an idea of how many of them are psychopathic. Just watching them walk around, because they have a similar gait. You can see by the way they move, the way they think. Right? Or don't think. You know, just like they can see whether or not you're a more thinking or feeling person. Right? Because if you are and you're not a psychopath, it means that your body language, your voice intonations, the electronics of your blood probably smells remarkable to 9 out of 10 people in the population. Now, if they happen to be in any sense disposed to you in any kind of predatory or sexually or excited way, them, their dogs, or people around them are very likely to be violent to you, or to come at you in a way that will do you harm. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. Just because of the way you walk and talk, or the way you look, or anything or everything about you. Because nothing about you agrees with how they and many of their kind have developed inside their mother's womb. That is normal to them. So you scare them, right? Or you look like fresh meat, right? These are the people that they can most easily use, lie to, right? Like in Rounders, when they're all at the poker game and they're all poker hustlers, and the 2 innocent tourists come by and they say, we're no longer playing against each other anymore because we've got prey, fresh meat, because they all speak the language. They know that these people don't, just by looking at them. It's the same thing with groups of females or groups of white psychopaths. They know I'm a tourist in their territory. I will never be a naturalized citizen of the fascist colonial world. I've never naturalized into it. In white terms, I simply failed to launch. But really, these people who fail to launch, who fail to become part of the white world, as eminently worthy as all these occupations often are in themselves, and how they benefit human beings, is always going to be an outsider or prey, right? The only time I'm safer is if I'm walking with a male or female psychopath at my side. And then they leave me alone because they assume that I'm already being used by someone. Right? And I've instinctively, when I've had roommates, had psychopathic females. And that, if nothing else, and there are a lot to deal with, kept lots of other predators away from me. In fact, I noticed that when I was vulnerable, like moving off the island or this, all these people I knew became more predatory. Once my bonds were loosing, or they thought they were loosening, to anyone around me that was living close to me. It was amazing. Everyone wants a piece, right? Because you speak a different language. They feel safe, they feel attracted, like a pedophile. I look at a child and feel safe around them. Hey, you're my natural opposite. You're my soulmate, you know? And then it just keeps going and going and going, right? That's the way most adult white people treat me, like they're a pedophile. They just sniff and smell. They feel safe. There's usually one among them. If they would say a group of females, one among them, usually the one holding the animal, who's the most predatory member of the bunch. She's the one that's really going to suss me out the most. If someone's, and I'm going to belong to her, right? So I met like a sociopathic female one day over a period of time, and 2 days in a row she sexually harassed me, and the first day she was with 2 white female friends, right? And you can just feel it in their energy, the way they're talking to me, which in my language is like humiliation. They're speaking almost like the language of shame, right? You can feel it coming off them in waves, right? I'm strange to them, I'm unfamiliar. They're attracted and scared or quite easily threatened, and you know they will be, which is part of how their predatory strategy works, whether they know it or not. If I start to assert myself at all, right, they find it exciting. Like, ooh, look, it's asserting itself. You can see it, the look on their body language, right? Right? They want you to assert yourself. They like that. They want to get your blood up, right? That lady wanted to tell me her little poem about the trees. I had no idea that a tree had fell. You know, she assumed that I was looking at the same thing she was looking at. I wasn't. But she said, oh, sometimes even nature has trouble dealing with nature. And it's like, I don't really see things that way. It's like, trees just choose to fall. And they're helped out by nature. Because that's what they want to do. You can see it different ways. You see, I got a rock in my shoe. So it's like the way white women think is never the way I think. But I appreciated her attempt at poetry, nonetheless. I say that a tree has laid down, not that it wasn't able to endure nature. You know, you're seeing it in the worst possible way, right? So it's like a phallic symbol that couldn't endure the female principle of wind and rain and cold and time, right? Right? Chronos should be a female, because the nature of time is the nature of birth and creation, which is the nature, first and foremost, of the knowledge and measures of the female and the mother, from whom all things are born. Everything's born from a mother. That's a profound teaching in itself. It's an ether, and time is like a feminine ether. But it lends itself to building a female world as well as building a male world, a world for boys and girls to live together, right? So, you know, if you had a womb and you had twins and they were a boy and a girl, they could live together in your womb. They don't fight, they don't castrate each other, right? They don't rape each other. So why do men and women rape each other in the world when we come from a mother? In a world where everything comes from a mother. So you have to answer that question if you're going to make your children safe, right? So I hope this helps. Only helps people who are asking the real questions, right? Trying to go to the deepest roots. And all along the way, finding greater safety, even if it means moving through areas that are a bit unsafe. Imagine your father taking you through a somewhat unsafe area, like the guy at the end of The Sound of Music. Come on, Fine Heifman, because we're moving to greater safety, higher land. And I think as we live and grow, we have to find greater safety for ourselves and our families. We have to be able to move and find more safety. You know, I've had great landlords. I have landlords who were unsafe. And when necessary, I can predict the behavior of predatory people. You know, I can feel it coming. But unfortunately, over the years, I've had so much predatory material that now I'm kind of permanently set to stun. It sort of shocked me in my late 40s here. Really shocked me how humans behave when nobody's watching. It's amazing. Or when they think you're the only one watching. Or even if they don't think you're the only one watching, it's fucking incredible. It's absolutely fucking incredible what humans are capable of doing. Women are capable of doing in public, and I'm sure men too. Okay. I don't want to hurt myself. I'm tired. So close to this house. It's weird. strawberry nature. I noticed that when you leave things in nature that are edible, or even my own crap, when you leave things in nature, you give things to nature. Not always, not your garbage and so forth, but a lot of times when you leave things in nature, you give things to nature. So I'll spit water out into a river, I'll spit coffee out. If some food falls from my hand, I might drop a little more. I'll say, there you go. And nature's saying, hey, I'd like some of that too. Maybe some animal will find it. Maybe it'll ferment and give some animal some B12. Some animal. Some animal. I'm tired. It's food. When I'm outside like this, I fear white people, white women, and authority figures of any kind altogether, more than I would ever be scared of bears or cougars or any animal or poison or fatality that otherwise exists. The greater her likelihood being that they will just unnecessarily or threaten me. This psychopath, I got about as much information as I could by being passive. You do find things out about people, one way or the other, because a sociopath is very conscious of the kind of image they want other people to have of them. They're a consummate salesman. And I think everyone has a right to want people to think well of them. And so their behavior constellates itself among many natural types of human behavior: self-image, self-awareness, telling yourself about people, being proud of yourself, offering yourself to others, your talents, exhibiting yourself, asserting yourself, and so forth. The only thing is that I've studied in cults and felt my entire life, and it deserves to be dealt with many, many facets, because it's like a costume that people wear when they're hurt, and it does all the hurtful things in the world. And we need to have compassion for that, for all of us. Is in cults, and violent behavior is kind of always cult-like, where people are over-identified with their identity, or their identity has kind of outshot and out-advanced other more modest senses of themselves that don't have to be someone. Just have to be someone that someone loves for all the wonderful reasons that they love you. It doesn't mean you're any less than what you are. You just don't have to be either in your sex or your work or your personality so identified with being a certain person. And this includes, your religion in some cases, depending on how you became that religion. It may serve, if not always, to be part of a language that protects you and people around you from pain and institutes codependency of various kinds of success, social acceptance, or widely enjoyed exhibition. I live in a big retirement community. I've never seen any of these people around me who don't have mental and emotional and physical and sexual problems. Not that I'm necessarily qualified to say that people have sexual problems, but when people have the problems these people seem to have, they're part of where they put their physical energy all of their life. Yes, I do like talking about this. Yes, I do. I could be accused of enjoying it too much. But the pleasure, the joy of doing this, I think is honestly come by. Old pistachio shell I found on the ground. That's neat. Okay, let's go. We left a bit of food on the ground. Ooh, let's go. Keep walking. Once I get into cell range, I'll call my mom. I think I know where that is. Oof to the boof. Yeah, so I like talking about such things. I think, in as much as I've done a lot of writing in my life on a completely amateur basis, except for the first short fiction contest I ever entered and won, I'm proud to say. I love poor people in their middling. I'm starting to think that as life goes on and I don't have enough to show other people of what I do, and yet somehow become more convinced that my rambling YouTube videos are accomplishing, among what I call my ceremonial way of life, all the wonderful black magic of the great raven, as any beautiful young man like myself, sacred man like myself, should ever have hoped to achieve in life, and thereby to rest in such labors as I will never be able to confess adequately to my fellow man, and all's will be well. I really have believed that since I was young. It's kind of what I've struggled with the most. The biggest part of the foundation of all my work is to believe that it is work and that it's achieving anything. I mean, if you're a writer, or an artist, or an adventurer, or just a survivor of any kind, like, that's pretty much what anyone listening to me is being asked to do, if you resonate with, I guess, how I happen to survive in the world. And I'm sure I risk making myself out to be quite a sorry case, I'm sure. And maybe that's just my personality, but I rather think that it's, you might think this is the same thing, but it's just how I came to be inclined to speak. You know, I like to think my voice has arisen according to the precise necessities and pressures that have attended its development, and any and all compulsions commensurate with its use in such and such a condition, and all the substance, power, and beauty thereof, to effect whatever change such a power is able to effect, and to respect that that power can do whatever the fuck it wants. I just want to be left alone and enjoy nature. And I think that's what any witch would say. We humans all imagine a great deal about how amazing their work is to other people, when often other people could fill your job in a day. You know, and there's lots of other people who want to do what you do. You know, which is good, because, you know, if, you know, a lot of people do very important jobs, so if they needed to replace you for any reason, they could. That's always good to know for the end user, if you're a nurse or something. But there's a job that everybody does, like myself, that no one else could do. And I think we call that vocation or avocation. Doesn't everyone deserve to have a kind of working, sort of magical occupation, regardless of whether you're employed or not? And people do amazing things and still manage to live like I do, I'm sure. I'm jealous of them. I hope they have a nice little place I can rent for $300, which is all my welfare will allow, and just let me play with myself and pay for my Netflix. I'm being honest when I say that. I think you have to be honest. I think that's the secret. Honesty. Oh, my shoulder's getting a little sore. I must have overused it a bit today. Actually, yesterday and today. I think it's from actually doing that stone circle yesterday. I gotta be careful. Gave it a really good workout. It's creaking like the trees right now. I've had a lot to do with my shoulder lately. I'm a physiotherapeutic standpoint. That's quite something. Hey Jude. Okay, so what was I talking about? I think it was about being bitter and cold and how that's your job. I think it was about that. I'd like to think, just if only gives my life a little more meaning than it would otherwise have, that part of my occupation can include talking about the kind of occupation that everyone could do, or has been doing all of their life, that isn't the thing that maybe brings in the bling, but it brings in the kind of twinkle, 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 twinkle in your dinkle. You know, I'm all about putting twinkle in your dinkle, essentially. And that's when things are really going well. You know, let's say you finish your job, you grab your fucking fishing rod and your dog, and you head out to the fucking lake in the cabin, and you take a piss off your deck, and you go take a shit in the woods. Maybe that's just me. Wipe your ass with a Christian Bible, and just light a lantern or a fire, and just, you know, call your girlfriend and have some phone sex, and then spend the rest of the night to yourself eating pizza and watching the big game. Listening to your dog howl outside, and then all of a sudden turn off the TV and all of the lights and listen to see if the boogeyman is coming, or Sasquatch, or a bear, or a raccoon. And all these things are possible, including UFOs, because you hear shit when you live in the woods. Ooh, or leaves. Ooh, this leaf just fell right into my hand. It's so awesome. As I said that, it's so cool. And so other little magical things. So, cannot people have a magical existence, like I do, deprived of gainful employment, yet cannot one relate to the unemployed grandeur of it all? Can I not be constructively unemployed? I like to call I said to this one guy who's a real estate agent, I said, I'm sort of constructively underemployed. I think they think I'm just bullshitting them, but I'm like, I'm trying to speak their language. I'm trying to be honest. Like, compared to you and your people, I'm a loser welfare recipient, and that's all I'll ever be. Please have mercy on me. But in my world, I'm an incredible wizardly genius, a magician of human emotion who has suffered as deeply as anyone could without going into live combat with the Taliban, while your girlfriend is at home fucking your best friend and your father at the same time. Ooh, dude. Wow. Whoa, that actually happened to me, man. And it was like, and also one of them was the Taliban. Now that's what I would like to see. Harry Belafonte could sing about that. And then I found out that he was Taliban. Oh, they like him, and we want to go. You're like, damn it, that's the saddest song ever. I had that rock in my shoe for half an hour. Shit, I should have taken that out. It's just so precious. I'll bring this leaf home and tell my mom that it fell right into my hands while I was talking about UFOs coming down in a cabin. Well, let's face it, I am in nature. Beautiful triangle stone. That's got orange on it too. That is so cool. Come, Mr. Tallyman. Oh, using your banana on my girlfriend while I'm in Afghanistan. I've got 2 bars and a purple star, but when I come back, I find her bra laying over your sleeping naked body, beautiful and brown like nobody I've ever seen. It's a gay musical. Come, Mr. Tallyman, look at my banana. Hey, it's like, and then you break in and see your dad wiggling his banana over a member of the Taliban, and your mother is rolled over on the other side naked. It's like, can you say as many Jewish psychiatrists as you can find? Biblical scholars, monks, people who study the depths of human depravity. Please, go on. Tell us what you felt. What did you really feel in that moment? Nothing. Nothing at all. I went into a total emotional coma and started playing with myself. I now masturbate to Gordon Ramsay exclusively. I pretend he's yelling at me. Put down that sausage, will you? And help me with this sauce. Okay, is this time to make a little disclaimer? I'm not gay. I am gay in some sort of sense, in that usual beautiful sense that beautiful country gentlemen could now and then take out their wang and think about how incomparable it would be to put it inside some woodland creature if it would save them from the Gila monster in living inside the female brain. Now, if that's gay, I'm gay. I'm not game, but I'm gay for game. You know what I mean? I got game. I do game. I'm a hippie redneck. I do game, man. It's like, did that white man just say I do game? It's got game, whitey. No, I do game, sir. Okay, dude, this guy does game. What is that? Now, I'm not trying to play on this fabled thing about black people not having a high IQ. It is only for the purposes of this joke they don't quite understand, probably with an understandable amount of horror between where they're at and what would be full understanding, that I'm referring to wild animals. So just give them some credit. They're decent, intelligent folk. He says he do game. What game is he doing? Rex or Hex or what was his name? Luther, I think this man does game down at the game farm. I was like, oh, he do game. Oh, man. I know some African tribes people who experimented with that in the 1930s. Apparently it's addictive. That's not nice, is it? Imagine being so desperate and horny that you stuck your penis in an animal. I mean, I can understand a cantaloupe, you know. I got two little saline pouches together and just had a gay old time, you know. I found a way to zip up a pair of jeans. That was the best day of my life, next to like my first Playboy. I had this. That was it. That was, you know, who knew that those two saline pouches would be the very apotheosis of my sex life for the rest of my life. I should have kept them in some kind of like wooden box, and then one day if I ever met like a female, I'd be like, open the box. I want you to know everything about me. Everything. Oh, what's this? It's like two pillows. Is that Vaseline between them? Yes. Smells a little ripe. Well, it probably has biological material from 1988. Oh, honey. And watch how she conceals her abject horror. She loves me that much. I'll make a YouTube video. Honey, that is gross, but amazing. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, right. Honesty. Well, you know, when we talked about full honesty, we could renegotiate that. You know, work out some of the finer details. But I wanted you to see this, honey. This is my full disclosure. Now you can tell me anything. Oh, really? How to beat two saline pouches of Vaseline stored in an ornate wooden box. Did you find that in the garbage somewhere? No, I made it in woodshop. Okay. All right. Let's see. Reciprocating. Can I think about that for sure, honey? Okay. Oh, that wasn't one time I got a hamster to lick my pussy. I just was so warm and furry. I thought they'd get along. To make a long story short, the people at the emergency room were very compassionate. Oh, to this day, I just can't think of hamsters without revulsion. Yes. Well, speaking of revulsion, honey, that is a natural human response. Oh, but it's not my response. I love you, honey. Well, I guess I'll never touch you down there. I would never want to irritate you. Where is this conversation going? It sounds like something that you'd hear in hell. Does anyone get to have sex? As we watch what happens next, I don't think that I can really tell. Anyway, I'm walking home. I seem to be in a good mood. Nothing has hurt me. I haven't felt any too much dread. So there's not too much evil around me. It's amazing. I just have a bit of a sore shoulder, so I gotta be careful of that, but ow. I'm holding this rock, actually, which is like a triangle. It's like a piece of cheese, like a triangle of cheese. And I think it's pretty cool. And this leaf that fell in my hand. Well, I was telling jokes, you know, sometimes I've had some of the most interesting experiences in nature while I was just making up songs and telling jokes. One time I had this owl sitting on a branch, like literally like maybe 5 or 6 feet at eye level as I was walking by, and didn't even like fluff a feather. I'm talking and singing, you know, not quite at the top of my lungs, but in a more than conversational tone, and not scared of me in the least. It was like it was just hanging out there waiting for me, and the fact that I was in such a joyous state made it all possible. And I stopped, paid my respects, and even though I was holding a camera, I never put it up to the owl, never thought about it, and just, I thought, well, if I want this to happen again, I don't want to outstay my welcome. You know, I always give them the alpha status, you know, their environment, their home. You know, I don't want to outstay my welcome in their presence, you know, and then maybe they'll favor with me again. It's a way of speaking, you know, and sharing respect. So turn my back on it right away, or them, or her, and then just let them decide what they want to do in my presence first, then look around, and then take a look. You know, I find with most animals, it's really good right away to pretend like you have something to do other than look at them. And so really, think of like a deer that just puts its head down eating grass. Now, if you're really scared of that animal for any reason, then don't do that. But if you could just sort of take your attention off them at all. Now, people say, well, not bears or cougars necessarily. I've turned on a bear, and they didn't turn on me. I put up my hands, I put up my bear paws, wave them and say hi kind of thing. Because it's the energy. I'm not saying fuck you or stop or go somewhere else. Like a lot of these white people will yell at the bear to tell it to go away. And I think they like doing that. They have friends come over and they like yelling at bears and telling them where to go. Whereas me, if I was with people, I'd say, we're going to turn around and go the other way. You know, I think that's why the bear consider me one of them. Because that's what I always do. I never expect them to do anything different. I don't come into their territory and tell them how to live or where to walk. If they want to walk right up to me on this trail, I will turn around and fuck off into the bushes and probably spend the next hour bushwhacking because I just let them be. They're like the king, you know? And other people who are a little less of a pussy than I am, they would just stand to one side and let them walk by. You can do that too, apparently. I don't, but you can. It's personal preference and whether or not your sphincter is telling you to go. Change subjects. I don't normally use these words because I don't like them. I'm not familiar enough with them to use them probably the right way, which I think is to a poisonous way almost at the same time. But you know how like Hollywood movies are considered liberal and the Hollywood actors are all liberal? Okay. Forget the political part. Like this idea of being liberal in what I consider the most value-based sense of like in terms of movies. I know this isn't quite correct, but the idea of like people being able to be people and that people are, if not exactly, a lot more the way they are in movies and the way that we commonly admit in our various prejudiced little worlds. You know, so that Jews in movies are like Jews and people who suffer, who usually aren't Jews, no offense to Jews, it's like good for you for not suffering too much, who are suffering and poor or this, in difficult situations or on death row. These are all things that can happen. They're humanized in the best sense of like the Hollywood sense of liberal is humanizing the world. Humanizing the world. They're not making bad value judgments by telling you about real human problems in various ways because nothing can be wrong if it's just something that humans do and something that at its most bizarre or hyperbolic is very entertaining for you to see while still maintaining a sympathetic connection to a very human story, right? No matter where it is, it's human. And to be human is to be liberal. To see humans not the way you want to, but the way they are, but done in a very aesthetically pleasing and entertaining way. So you thank them for their presentation of, in a sense, an honest, aesthetically pleasing way of looking at real human situations. But that, you know, and in a sense, that sense of liberal Hollywood is something that the most generous audience would want to give them, to bestow upon them as a thanks for all of their hard work and dedication, right? And it's complete bullshit, but that doesn't take away from its power and its mesmerizing power, and I think maybe it's even some good reason to be there, because it has achieved a kind of consent, you know, in the theatrical Hollywood American, Western, cinematic, audience-going sense of that term. You know, the golden handshake is just a widely accepted belief that is so. And you watch movies that way, you know, it's like the unforgivable becomes forgivable. Rape, murder, just strange ways of presenting gender and history and so forth. Because of that human factor, it gives the air of truthfulness to it. In a sense, a lot of history is about human sacrifice, sacrifice of the father, sacrifice of human sex, sacrifice of mothers, sacrifice of natives, sacrifice of billions and billions of people. And movies make it seem like the actors who are royalty are giving the best version of our existence and making this human sacrifice look more palatable and entertaining and human. And so fulfilling the sacrifice by branding all of these stories with their humanity, while humanity itself is being led to slaughter. And that's black magic, you know? Like selling you on the humanness of Jesus or the humanness of Buddha or Muhammad, right? Well, everything about these religions says that you have to worship the invisible that you cannot comprehend because it's beyond human terms, or it's beyond your human terms because you're a fallen being. And it's like, that's a lot to ask, isn't it? While all of a sudden, while saying that this is the best example of what a human is, and you should aspire to this. At its best, you'll be worthy of being sacrificed on a cross every fucking Easter. While the world goes fucking blit shit crazy buying things for you so it can molest you on your birthday. You know, and fuck your mother. So, you know, fuck you. And eliminate your father. Fuck you. I mean, do you see this? Do you see this black magic? Jesus Christ. That's all I'm saying. This is part of what I do. I know, it's like now I want to be Christian Slater and be like, hey everyone, how you doing, Arizona? Big Turk. Okay, I'm going to pick up this garbage. I wasn't going to. I feel bad about that. It's like, I left some garbage the other day, so I figure at least I should pick up some garbage. It's raining a bit more than it was. I should really call my mother soon, so she'll know where I am. La 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 la. I think I'm earlier than I thought. It's probably only 3 o'clock. Let's check. Probably only 3 o'clock. Let's check. Check. Check, check, check.